Hi, I'm Debbie Raymond.
And I'm Bob McDermott. Welcome to the Paranormal and Beyond. Tonight's a great show. We're going to do something a little different tonight, Deb. That we've got some footage from an investigation that was actually completed last night right here in Raymond. So for the Raymond folks, you're really going to like this because this is downtown. North East Paranormal did it last night. We're going to have a conversation about that with one of the members of North East Paranormal. Welcome to the show, Fred.
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here again.
Yeah, we're glad to have you back. Now, you did an investigation at the Raymond Historical Society,
Yes.
which is a train depot. It's the whole motif is around a track that actually existed, correct?
Yes, it
Okay.
is. We actually looked into 3 buildings while we were there. We did the actual depot itself. We did the little one-room schoolhouse that's in back of the depot. And we looked into Caboose, which is sitting on the tracks right there beside the depot.
Now, these are all original buildings, back to
Right.
1925 or 26 someplace, correct?
Right, yeah. On the train station, this is the 3rd train station. The other 2 had burned down in fires, but this one was built back in the
Right.
early 1900s.
And we also had a chance last night, Deb, to do the museum. Tell them about what we found in there.
Yeah, in the museum, which they call the Tool House, we found the original Raymond ladder truck, Raymond Fire Department ladder truck.
Wow.
Horse-drawn. It was fantastic to see
Yeah.
that. I have a son that's a fireman, so it was especially interesting to me.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we did investigate in there for a while, and we got no activity in there at all. So I was a little
Wow.
disappointed at that. I was hoping to be a fireman there who was keeping watch on that ladder
Yeah.
truck, you know.
Yeah, right.
So,
Now, you had an opportunity to be in there a couple weeks ago, and kind of a unique thing happened, really. We were in there, it was during the day, and Fred had a K2 meter. I'll let you tell the story, Fred.
yeah, I was using a K2 meter in the actual depot itself.
Yeah.
And in one of the display cases, there was a drum from the Civil War. So I was using the meter around there, and all of a sudden it lit up. So for the K2 meter has one light that's on steady, and if we get some kind of energy field within it, it lights lights. The stronger the energy field, the more lights it lights. So I got one light to light, and I began to talk. First I asked, would you like to be a friend with me? Because I kind of settled them down, and the light lit up really nice, and that was good. And we talked for quite a while, back and forth. I'd say probably 20, 25 minutes, which is a long time for a
Right.
spirit to interact
Right.
with you.
Yes, it is.
Because it takes a lot of energy for them to do that.
Yep.
And it hangs out right here.
Okay, so bring it back to where you get the 2 lights. Now ask it to shut the lights down.
Can you shut the light down? Turn it off so that I know that. Oh,
Yeah, there you go.
that's good. Can you turn it back on?
Yes, yeah, there you
Oh,
go. 3 lights
wow.
you got. Wow.
That was really good.
You see that?
I'm so happy to be talking to you. So we did a little investigating afterwards on his name.
Right.
And this is the only place you got activity was around the drum at the time.
Yes, and it was,
Wow.
It was pretty unique. And I think we should explain to our home audience that a K2 meter, when you ask questions, you ask for lights, give me 2 lights, give me 3 lights, if you've seen them on ghost
Right.
hunters. But it was only lighting up to your inquiries, correct?
to my questions, exactly.
Right. Would you
And,
be like on a yes or no basis? Is
Right.
that kind of how you were running?
basically,
the
yes and no,
questioning? Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
And I would say, if the lights were on, we'd say, well, if the answer is yes, turn them off.
Right.
And
right.
they would turn off,
Right.
so.
Yeah.
And this is where I think paranormal investigators need to really start to look at that, Deb.
Yes.
Because interesting enough, if you and I are chatting, we ask mostly open-ended questions of each other.
We do.
You don't
Yes.
ask, are you okay? You ask, how are you feeling?
Yes.
You know, so are you is a closed-ended question because you're going to answer it yes or no.
Right.
How, you have to come back with an answer.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
what we tend to do as investigators, because we're only getting lights,
Right.
we ask closed-ended questions, and I think it makes it harder for the spirits to work with us.
Right.
So
right.
if we go in and we say, have you been here long? an open-ended question where
Right.
they got to come back and say 2 years or yes, I have, or
Yes.
something. And I think you see the meter work. What surprised me was, and we'll get into the last night's investigation, which I know you wanted to be at and you couldn't, but
Yes.
you know
Yeah, I
what?
was gonna
We
say, I'm gonna
we
tell
made
them that.
great contact, but there was so much information there we could have gotten, and this is what a
Right.
medium can do.
Right.
You know, but I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Before Fred tells us later. Do you think that, now you've seen investigators that have been antagonistic.
Yes.
You've seen that strategy, and some do that. You know, yeah, I'm not afraid of you. You can't do anything to me, and they really try to get that
Right.
spirit fired up. We've seen this on television. There are groups that do that, and then there's the groups like your group, Fred, that really kind of takes a passive, polite, I would even say,
Respectful.
respectful approach. Which one do you think, Deb, should happen?
We always try to convey or push the more respectful route. I find we get better answers that way, and you build friendships. Like when you said, "Do you want to be friends?" What a great way to start, because that's a perfect way.
Yeah.
Someone had said to me, "Why do they always answer you? How come they always come to you?" I said, "Because I go there with the white flag, and I go there, subconsciously waving my flag, saying, hey,
Sure.
we're one of the same, and when no one's higher than the other, and when you go in with that aspect, they tend more to gravitate towards you and answer. And an answer about the fire truck is when you were talking about, there was actually 2 people in the room. But I think your approach was great. That was a great way to approach it. But there was a little bit of hesitation on their end, which I think that if you would have tried a little bit more,
Right.
and sat, and which I don't know how the room was, I never seen it before. That would have been interesting to get a little bit more of a feedback from them. It's more like it takes them sometimes a little bit longer to
Right.
warm up
Right.
than
Yeah.
it does when you first walk into the room. And I'm sorry I couldn't be there last night, but I explained to
know
you I
you wanted
slept
to.
3 hours.
Well, I see, and I agree with you.
Yeah,
And Fred and I have done a lot of investigations, and I believe, and I think the train depot fell right into the same pattern.
Yes.
Because the first time that we did it, by the way, we did it during the day.
Right,
So this
right.
wasn't him and I together.
It didn't have to be midnight either, which people
Correct.
have a misconception
Right.
that they think it always has to be done at night.
Right.
And this was done in late afternoon dinner time, sort of to speak.
Yesterday,
and
yeah.
it shows people there's still energy even at that time of day.
Well, yeah, that's interesting you say that, because
Yes.
there are so many paranormal groups out there that will start an investigation 8 o'clock at night.
I know.
and then
It's
they go
true.
till 3, 4 o'clock in the
And
morning.
there's no need for it.
And I wonder if it isn't because
Yeah.
they really want to pull it all night or
right. It's
Because-
so true.
And I get this at
Right.
libraries all the time.
Yes.
We're doing the
It's
Kingston
so
Library,
true.
and they always ask, "Do you have to do this only at night with the lights out?" And I say, "No,
No.
that's for us."
Oh, my gosh,
That's
no.
real.
Right.
There is an aspect that I think with the lights out that you're hearing, your smell. Even your eyesight tends
Yes.
to peak a little bit.
Yes,
Because
yeah.
they say that,
Yeah.
that sightless people
Right.
really have very good hearing, which I don't. Very good hearing, and they smell better. Well, I have to tell you a side story, and then we'll get to yours. During the investigation last night, I wear hearing aids.
Yes,
okay?
right.
And I was in the back room with Diana, who was the president of the Historical Society.
Yes.
And there's a big board back there, and it had 16 pictures of colonial farms and homes, real pictures that somebody had saved. And we saw a shadow figure go by, her and I. Now, she's
Wow.
not a paranormal investigator. She was nice enough to coordinate the event for us last night, so she was just there with us.
Right.
And she saw the shadow figure. Well, we started talking, and I looked at the board, and I said, I wonder if it has something to do with one of the houses on the board. And we heard a very distinct click, her and I. So I asked, is it way on the left in that row, the house?
Yeah.
Well, there was a red beam on it. A red beam. So we started saying, wow, what is that red beam? We're looking all over the place. Well, Art, who was our director here, was filming this last night. The red beam was right on one house.
Wow.
So we're saying, wow, this is unbelievable. Well, as it turns out, it was because as you moved, that red dot moved with you.
Oh, yes.
So if you went
yeah.
far left, the dot went far right.
Yes.
If you went back to the left, it went over to the left. So it really wasn't that, but we did
Right.
hear this distinct tap. And back to your point, Deb, I think it takes 2 or 3 tries sometimes for us to get
Yes.
comfortable.
Yes.
Whereas mediums, they come through, and I really believe it's because they trust you so much more than they do us.
Yes, yeah.
I mean, they see us come in with equipment and you know,
Right.
we're spending time setting up cameras and everything
Right,
else.
right.
And, you know, sometimes you have to look at a brand new place that you're asking them to light equipment up and to do things
Yes.
that is very foreign to them.
Right, and
I mean-
and it looks scientific. I mean, you gotta look at like how scientific that it looks.
Right.
Because I use my own instruments sometimes too for fun and games. However, I've asked the spirit before, how can you tell between a medium and myself? Because all 3 of us can go in. They told me they see a light over mediums' heads that kind of show an opening that
Really?
they know
Oh,
that
wow.
that's a medium. I can communicate with that person.
Wow.
And sure enough, see, I have goosebumps. I had a picture done. Someone had taken a picture of me, and this is more than once. And I can
Yeah.
give it to put on here, where the light is clearly right here on
Right
my
there.
head.
Oh, wow.
And they
Through,
tell you
even
that.
through regular photography from a cell phone, whether it's I got it done from like an astrologer. I forgot what her name was. Forgive me, but she had taken my picture as well. And my aura, thank you. So my aura, and the light was there, and I said, I can't believe it, because
Wow.
that's what they
Wow.
told me.
That's
You know
what
what I'm
they
saying?
told
So that's why when you guys come in with all your instruments, they can get a little taken aback and
Right.
not sure what it is, or if they do know what it is and thinking you're just another
Right.
group going in there
Right.
and trying to be selfish and get
Yeah,
the things
right.
that you want, they're not gonna
Yeah.
be cooperative.
Yeah, and we
You
see
know?
this. We see this a lot.
Yes.
So we do the first one, and you got a lot of activity. I got no activity, so they
Right.
seem to gravitate towards you.
Yes,
This
yeah.
becomes important in a few minutes because of what took place last night. So,
Right.
Yes.
so now we go in last night, and we have a more formal
Right.
investigation with this North East Paranormal Associates. They set up
Yes.
cameras. They
This
set
is the
up,
real deal.
Yeah,
Yes.
and they
right.
they actually
Right.
set up a flashlight. So
Yep.
go ahead. I'll let you tell that story.
Yeah, one of the young ladies who was with our group, Linda, set up a mini mag light. And what they do is they set the mini mag light so it's just off. It doesn't take much
Right.
for
It's
it
not
to
a
light.
click on.
It's not
Right.
a click, it's a twist.
Right.
And they twist it down to the just off. If it twists a little more, it would come on.
Right.
And then they set it on a shelf. And they see if they get any activity. They talk, ask questions. Is anybody here? Would anybody like to talk to us? Mm-hmm. And lo and behold, the light came on.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I was really excited to see.
Oh, yeah, that's awesome.
Because I don't see that light works as often as I would like to see it work. But last night it worked
Yeah, it
fantastic.
did. And the funny part about it, Linda, who's one of the
Yeah.
investigators, she goes in about 10 minutes while we're outside. We're kind of getting organized here and getting equipment set up. So, but she goes off on her own, and she goes in and sits in the depot, right, and decides to set this light up all on her own. Nobody, And when we walk in, she's having this conversation.
That is wonderful.
Yeah, and she said, I've made contact.
Recording.
Yes.
There it is.
Okay. Were you in the Civil War? Turn on the flashlight if you were. Are you still here with me? Turn it. Okay. All right. Turn it off if you're still here. You can turn it off now. If you're in your 40s, can you turn on the flashlight?
Just a second, wait.
Who are you talking to?
I don't know who it is yet, but it's been going on and off for me.
Now, I would tell our audience, it didn't respond every time to every question. Sometimes it went
Right.
on and
Right.
off, and there was really quite a lapse in between. But then she asked a series of questions that went on and off to the
Yes.
questions.
Right.
But tell them the story about when we handed it to you.
Yeah, it was really funny. We said, well, let's try someone else and see if we can communicate. So I asked it a few questions, no light, nothing. I waited a few minutes. I said, I went through my whole, I want to be your friend routine. Come on, you can talk to me. And then I said, all right, if you don't want to talk to me and you just want me to leave you alone, light the light. And it came on as bright as
Isn't
could be.
that funny?
Yeah,
See?
it was really funny.
Yes, it is. How
And-
many minutes, how long did that take for you to get to that result of you saying, do you want us to leave you alone?
I'd probably say 3 or 4 minutes.
Okay.
3 or 4 minutes.
Now, we have interviewed you before, and I remember when I said to you, I said sometimes they pop things in our mind to tell
Yeah.
us. It's like, you knew, okay, I need to ask this question, and you did, and look what happened.
Look what
Right.
So
happened.
do you see what I'm
Exactly.
saying? So you got that
Right.
response. So you really heard them, actually, and that's what I'm trying to tell you.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
that
okay.
makes a good investigator. When you pick up on your intuition and you
Right.
hear
Yeah.
what's being told, you'll always get a good result from it.
Right.
Yeah.
So, so when you think it's you getting that question answered, they actually told it to you and you did it, and then you got that connection.
Right.
There
So,
was another
see?
female investigator in
Yeah.
the room with us, and her name was Stacia.
Stacia,
Yeah.
right.
So
Yes.
what I did was I said to Stacia, you try talking to this spirit and see
Right.
what happens. Well, she communicated, and the light went on and off, but the light went on and off well to her questions. So then she finally said, are you tired of talking to me?
Do you want to keep talking to me, or do you want me to stop talking to you? If you want me to talk to you, could you turn it on, please? Would you like Linda to continue talking to you? Turn it on, please. I appreciate your time.
Yeah.
The light came on.
See?
Yeah.
Yes.
But here's the thing that the takeaway from that was that that spirit, that energy that we made contact with, wanted to talk to females. Because when it finally was over, I said, let me give it a shot. And I said, will you talk to me? And wouldn't come on. And I asked probably a series of 6 or 8 questions like that.
Right,
You know.
right.
So finally I said, I'll tell you what, if you'll light the light for me, I won't bother you anymore tonight. I'll back away and let the girls do it.
Yes.
What happened?
The light came right on.
See?
right on.
Really bright.
See, that's what I'm
Came
saying.
right
So
on.
see how this is where we are matched with them, where you really were connected 100%.
Right.
That is awesome, because that's where you got that really brightness and that answer right away.
Right.
And as a medium, I try to tell you guys that is
Yeah.
the best thing to do.
Right.
They really do have preference between male and females. They really do.
And that's something.
They,
Yeah.
they do, and,
That was
and
pretty-
it's however you want to call it. It's still there, even on the other side where they have preferences.
Yep.
So, but I mean, it sounds like you guys did a great job, and I wanted to acknowledge that other members of NEPA are not here today because this was a last minute thing that we
Right.
decided to do, but we love Dwight and Linda, and I
Yeah.
haven't had a
Yeah,
chance
they
to
do a
meet new
great job.
members, so we did want to give them some kind of accolade that they are not here today. And we will invite the entire team here, I believe, to be able to discuss this again.
Yeah, we'll do this
You know?
again. And,
Right,
and
right.
by the way, this is going to be on their website
Right.
when we finally get this produced.
Yes.
Tonight's show, and that's www.nepah.org.
Right,
So you can go
right.
there, you can go to that website, and you'll see this footage. of
Exactly,
this. But,
yes. And we want to just include the other ones too, because we're so
Right.
grateful he came today.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah,
And,
it was really be able to
yes,
the
because
show.
we're naming other people, that's why. I wanted
Right,
to
but
say.
I thought it was really an
Yeah.
interesting investigation last night because Fred and I had the opportunity to be in the schoolhouse, which it dates back to
Yes.
the 1800s.
Yes.
And it's an original schoolhouse. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the building, it's not on the property, but it was moved there.
Right.
And you gotta see this inside.
I do,
You know, matter of
yes.
fact, they're having an open house down at the
Oh.
Raymond Train Depot.
Yep.
For the Historical Society, and people can get down there and go through the buildings and everything else.
Wow, yeah.
But we got nothing in the schoolhouse, and then
We had
That's
nothing at all. We
interesting.
were in there probably half hour, 45 minutes
Right.
in the afternoon and got absolutely nothing.
Yeah, yeah.
And the schoolhouse is fantastic, by the way.
Yes.
It's got
It is.
2 front doors, one for the girls, one for the boys.
Yes.
Classroom is split in half for the girls, half for the
Wow.
boys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
It's really a cool building to go into and see how they went to school back in those days.
Right, right.
But we got absolutely no activity in there at all.
Wow.
It was very
But then last
quiet.
night, the team went back for the second time.
Right.
And they actually get some hits in that place.
Right.
In that same room.
Right.
Yeah, see, that's where it's hit and
Yeah,
miss.
yeah.
It is, it's hit and miss. Sometimes, we have locations we like to go to, sometimes it's hit and miss. But that's a perfect example.
Yeah,
And it was different members of our group, and
Right.
obviously they were better able to connect them.
Yes.
Bob and I were.
Yeah.
This the same person I was just speaking to? Yeah, my name is Dwight. Once yes, twice no. If you can do that. Flash. So if this is the same person I was talking to a minute ago, are you here by choice? No. Do you feel you have to stay here? Are you compelled to stay here? No. Do you want to stay here? No. Do you come and go? Oh, you went.
Yes.
You know, they
Were the two doors exactly the same?
exactly the same.
Yeah,
One on
'cause
the
I
right,
keep
one on the
going
left,
Yeah, okay,
and exactly the same.
okay.
But,
And how did you know which one was girls and which one was boys? Did they have, little plates?
had a
and
mark.
little mark?
Yeah.
Yeah, boys
Yeah.
and girls.
Boys
And
and
that was
girls.
so that
Okay.
when they entered the schoolroom and they came out of the schoolhouse.
Yeah.
That they actually, because the inside, and you'll see this on the camera. I
Yes.
think, but inside it's split in half, so half the boys would sit on, the boys would sit on one half of the schoolroom.
Okay.
Girls on the other.
Yeah.
Well, it coordinated in the doors when they walked in.
Oh, how
Right.
Yeah.
interesting.
But they thought
Yeah.
last night, some of the feedback we had was that they thought they were talking to a child.
to a child.
Because
Yeah.
they were doing
Yeah.
some funny things with them.
Yeah.
So they thought maybe they had made contact with a child.
And that wouldn't surprise me because I've always found that kids, they love to play and they
Yeah.
love to play jokes and they're jokesters, tricksters, they love to do stuff like that.
Yeah,
So it wouldn't
exactly.
surprise me.
Yeah.
So when you gather up all the evidence and try to see if there's something different there. And children in my experience often come in small shadows,
Hmm.
little shadows. They're very quick, very swift. When I find as the older and the wiser that the spirit gets, they're not as quick and swift. You know what I mean? So
Wow.
just try,
Okay.
if you see orbs and stuff, remember the smallest that they are is as young as they are, and
Yeah.
as bigger as they are, it tends to be like
Their
they're older
age.
and wiser,
Oh,
right?
Well,
Okay.
that's funny
Speed.
because
Yeah.
when Diana and I caught the shadow
Yes.
in the back room in
Yes.
what would be the office, there was a bureau from original that was with the house and a mirror, and there were two
Yes.
dolls, probably about this big,
Yeah.
antique dolls sitting. That's where we saw the shadow across the doll.
Wow.
So it wasn't a full body apparition, or it wasn't a
Right.
full body shadow. It was just a shadow that went across the two dolls.
Yes.
And I said to Diana, that's really kind of different because it was a short, small shadow. It wasn't
Yeah.
like we were seeing a shadow figure. Yeah.
Interesting.
So now
Yes.
you just said that.
Yes, and that's what I mean. It
And
it
that's what we
all
saw last
depends
night.
on that, and this all comes from experience. When you have, because
Right.
I can see them, and that all comes from the experience from it. So
Right.
I'm not telling the viewers, yeah, you guys got to believe everything we say, but let the proof in the pudding. When you show the evidence, and that's
Right.
going to be so interesting to see that.
Right.
And I don't know, I just think it's magical. I
It
really
is.
do.
It
I
is.
really
And
do.
some of the things I learned is spirits are not necessarily attached to buildings as people
That's
believe.
correct. That's right.
Like my instance with the drum the other day, it was
Right.
we could clearly see that the attachment was to the drum
Right.
and not the building. And the
That's
drum
right.
had no connection to the building at all.
That's
It
right.
was a Civil War drum.
Yes.
So I find that very interesting.
Yes.
Yeah, and it doesn't prove it at 100%, but how interesting it is that you were getting activity in this area with this drum in this glass case. Why are people where they are after they pass?
Yes.
Why did they stick around? And one of the reasons we think is they have unfinished business. That
Right.
they haven't quite finished what they set out to do.
Right.
So this might tie into that theory. That's where a medium is so important to it.
Yeah.
A paranormal
Yeah.
team that doesn't have a medium with them is only doing half of the
Yeah.
job. That's my opinion.
That is
we
severe
could've done-
disadvantage, yeah.
Yes, and I could have been with you in the fight with the old fire room.
Yeah.
where The was it a horse drawn?
It was
Yes.
a horse
Yeah, you know what I'm
drawn
saying.
fire ladder
So
truck,
this
yeah.
way, I could have talked to them, and you could have got the responses on the instruments. It would have
Right.
been awesome.
Oh,
Do you know what I
right,
mean?
yeah.
So yeah,
That's right.
So
Yeah, and-
we'll revisit it again, and we'll go through that. And
Yeah, we're going to try to get you down there on
the
January 2nd. We're
Yes.
going to
Be
do
fun.
another remote from that.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
their open house.
Yeah.
So it'll be enjoyable. We're going to bring Seacoast Sauces back in. They've
Yes.
invited them to speak.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And kind of make it a paranormal day like
Oh,
that.
that's
So-
wonderful. Yeah.
And then in October, North East Paranormal is going to
That's
do
gonna
a ghost walk.
Oh wow!
I'm so
yeah.
looking forward to
That
doing
is
that. That's gonna be so
awesome.
much
yeah,
fun.
Yeah, yeah,
But when you go into the train depot, have you been in there, Deb? I know you
No,
live
I
in
drive
there.
by it, but I don't, yeah.
When you go in there, there's so many antiques and just so much history inside this
Mm-hmm.
building, isn't it, Fred?
Yeah, it's phenomenal. I love going in there.
Were there musical instruments or anything
Yes.
of musical? Because I keep feeling musical
Yeah,
instruments.
yeah, it
I've
was
never
really
been in
funny.
there.
We
There's a
were
piano.
having the best contact with the flashlight yesterday. The flashlight was sitting on an organ,
Oh,
On a,
on a big organ
Yeah.
that somebody
how
had given.
interesting! Yes, and we didn't
So-
say that in the very beginning.
Right,
So I
we
kept
didn't,
feeling
so-
music, and because when they when you write musical notes, I
Right.
kept seeing musical notes being written.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh,
So that's
wow.
why I didn't know if it was
Yeah,
instruments
it was
there.
on an organ.
How interesting!
And you know, it's funny. We asked some questions, and it's amazing how they'll answer what they want to answer.
Yes,
There's some
that's
things they
right.
don't want you to know.
yeah.
We would ask numerous times, are you male or female? Are you a male?
Right.
Are you a female? Nothing. No answer at
Yeah.
all. So it obviously didn't want us to know.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But also with the organ. Are you connected to this organ in any way? No answer. No answer, nothing. So we don't know that it is, although
Right.
there was so much activity there, it made us believe that it probably
Wow.
was. But it did say that it worked in a shoe mill in Raymond, one of the old
Yep.
shoe mills.
Yep.
And,
Yep.
well, I think over 40 years of age.
Yeah. Over 40.
So that was
Wow.
interesting.
Do we know what shoe mill it was? Do
We
have
couldn't
any-
get that
any
out.
information on that?
See, this is a technique that you can use because you've said it many times, Deb.
Yes.
When you make contact with this energy, this spirit, they only have so much
Energy,
to offer.
that's right,
You know,
that's
they,
right.
they're not going to hang around a long time. And when you see paranormal investigators say, "Are you 30? Are you 40?
Right.
Are you 50?" I say
Right.
to them, "You know what, guys? You ask the question, are you under 50? If you get a hit, you say, are you over 30?
Right.
Because frankly,
Hmm.
you know, does it matter how old they are?
Exactly.
I mean, seriously,
It's true.
why are we
Right.
wasting energy here on, you know,
Right,
they're wasting
on
their
that
energy trying to get to
question, yes.
to an age that we really don't care what age
That's
they are.
right, that's right, yes.
So when paranormal investigators start going, this is why you got to start to think about the questions and then
Yes.
follow up on what they tell you.
Hmm.
So he's a shoemaker or she's a shoemaker. You know, did you work in Raymond?
Right.
Did you work in this area?
Right.
You know, were you a
It's-
cobbler?
Yeah, so that's a great, that's a great
It's
thing
a technique to
mention up.
do that.
It is.
And you hear so many of them. Is there someone in the room with us tonight? You know,
Right.
Of course there's
Of
somebody in the
course
room. You wouldn't
there's
be
someone
here.
in
You
the
know what I mean?
Yes, yes.
Right.
And the reason why I asked about the shoe is because I kept seeing, like, say, the mill. If they ever, you know, sometimes they have a moniker that they put
Right.
on the shoes or they put their names on it or whatnot. I kept seeing NO for number, period, and then a number was like 94, NO number 97, or, you know what I'm saying? I kept seeing that.
Okay. Now,
So
I'm
I
going to tell you
wasn't
something.
sure. What?
Okay.
Oh,
Well, I'll
God.
tell you what.
Oh, no, what?
I had helped out today, and they were doing their spring cleaning.
Yeah,
And you know the caboose. They have
Yeah.
an actual caboose
Yeah.
that was in the 19 because this is an actual train station. These were the
Right,
tracks and
right.
everything else. So the caboose is there, and I was in there kind of sweeping out the caboose and everything. And one of the things I noticed was what you just said. There's this rack, and they're about that long. They're I'm sure iron back in those days,
Right.
And they have numbers on them.
oh my gosh.
And it was the number of the spikes they were putting in.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they would take it and tap that into the
Yes.
spike to say number 15, number 16.
Right,
And they were all
right.
numbered.
Yep.
And that's what you were just saying.
Okay, so.
So you were seeing those numbers.
Yes, that's,
Right.
it's so strange. And that's
Wow.
why I said, I have never been in there before. So
Yeah.
I said I've never been there a year ago. I've never
Right.
been in there.
Right.
So it's so interesting that
And there were
That
many
had
of them.
come
I
up,
mean,
yes.
and they're about this round,
so
about that long
where
spike.
was the shoe, like who said, was it in that room or was it in a
Well,
different room?
you know, it was really funny. It was in the depot
Yes.
that we were
yeah.
talking to the spirit, and said, "Did you work in the mill?" And we got a light came on. But one of the things that we were unsure of, and still are, we didn't
Yes.
get an answer, is at one time, after the railroad stopped running, the depot was a cobbler shop.
Yes, yeah.
So,
Right.
you know, it's very possible it could have
interesting.
been the cobbler.
That's why I asked if it was in the same room because I kept feeling, you know what I mean? So isn't that interesting?
It
oh
is.
my
It
goodness.
is. we couldn't get an answer out of him
Yeah.
on that. I mean, we
Yeah.
tried different questions, different ways, But he was just determined not to tell us, so.
Exactly,
We
yes.
moved on.
Yeah.
And it's, at one point, and this was well into the evening. Now, this team really does a couple of hour investigation. I know some teams go 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning,
Right.
and that's fine.
Right.
I'm not knocking that. But back to your point about they only have so much energy to expel.
Yes, yes.
At one point last night, you could see that the flashlight itself, when they asked a good question, the flashlight would come on bright.
Right.
I mean, very bright. And you'll see this. This is all
I
filmed.
love it.
As they went on for probably 10 or 15 minutes of this, the flashlight started to get duller. As a battery was maybe wearing out.
That's right.
And I whispered to Linda, I said, just ask if they want to take a break, if they'd like to just break.
Right.
And she asked, and the light come on very bright.
Wow.
So as it went out, I said, just say to them, if you want to get back and start talking again, put the light back on.
Yep.
So we take a break, we turn the lights on in the place, and we're all kind of sitting around talking
Wow.
about, this and everything else. And all of a sudden, 10 minutes later?
10, 15
maybe
minutes
10,
later,
15, yeah. Bam, it lit up. It did.
Okay, no
He
more
was-
ignoring
he was
me.
Like, he was like, okay, I'm good, I rested.
Yeah, no, didn't
Yeah,
it? It came right
did,
back
yeah,
on.
no more ignoring me.
That-
It
that
said,
is
come on, I'm
awesome.
back.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
I've drained the
See?
batteries I need to drain, whatever I have to do.
And that's what I do, for whenever I do investigations or readings, I always
Yeah.
bounce from one spirit to the next to give them a rest.
Yeah.
And they do that. They'll come back and go, hello, or they'll like wave, hello,
Yeah.
I'm still here. And that's what you guys,
Yeah.
that's just
Yeah,
awesome.
that
I
did
love
last night.
it.
I was really amazed at
Wow.
that.
Yeah, it was fun.
Wow.
It was.
And I'll tell you, that contact lasted about 25 minutes to a
That's
half hour, I
funny.
guess.
That was
Yeah.
extremely long, yeah.
That
it
is
was.
Yeah.
funny.
I thought any minute we were going to lose them. And,
Yeah.
and at one point, Linda or you asked, Linda or Stacia asked, is there more than one spirit here with
Yeah.
us? And it come up very bright.
Yes,
bright.
yeah,
It was,
yeah.
We never did really, well, you made contact now.
I
Go ahead.
did. I finished my little drum story. So I went over and, of course, asked my question, do you remember me? I was here last week to talk to you. And sure enough, the light came on. And I said, I want to ask you a question. After doing some research, is your last name Littlefield? And the light just exploded.
Oh my
I mean,
gosh.
I think it would have lit 4 or 5 more lights if they were on the meter.
So
I mean, the light
see?
went that bright.
Right.
And then it shut off, and I didn't get another contact
That's
for the
right.
rest of the night.
So, but you know what? You remember what I just said to you? I said so they want to be honored in some way, and
Yeah.
look at that. You honored it just by that.
Well, you know
Yeah.
what's really
How
unique about this?
amazing.
Before Fred did that, I tried to make contact over by
Yeah.
the drum for about 10, 15 minutes. I kept asking all kinds of questions. We in the Civil War. We know that you were part of Raymond. It
Yes.
would not respond to me. Now, remember what I said earlier in the show. Fred did all the research.
Right.
So now he goes back in
I
there
love this.
and this energy, I believe, recognizes that he's trying to help him
Yeah,
and really makes contact with you
Right.
again. Because he knows
Instantly.
that.
instantly,
And
exactly.
as soon as I went over by the drum and asked, he was there. It was amazing.
This is where I always try to say that they do know more information than we do.
Right.
So he knew, okay, this one has it for me. This one
Right.
can help me.
Yep.
So it's an actually, you see, I have goosebumps. It's an energy thing that ends up happening.
Right.
So, and I've always said they don't have to talk to 5 different individuals in the room. If they only want to choose to talk to one, they
Right.
only choose one.
Right.
And that's what happened.
Yep.
Right.
So, but the reason why is because energetically they just knew that you had the answer to what they were looking for.
Then I tied it in to the monument that's in downtown Raymond.
Yes, yes.
There's a Civil War monument there, and his name's on the Civil War monument.
Wow. Right, right,
This
right.
group's going back and do a third investigation.
Yes.
And what the reason for that is now we start to match up evidence found in the first one to the second one
Yes.
to the third one.
Right.
And it will be interesting. We have documentation, and we have you on film. You have a CD of
Yeah,
that first
I
one.
do.
So we have this on a CD of Fred making contact the first time.
Right.
Okay. We catch it on film, which you'll see in the show tonight.
Yeah.
Of Fred catching it the second time. Now we go back a third time. What would happen? What's the conclusion if we don't get anything out of that?
I have
Yeah.
to tell you, this may sound weird, but if he doesn't come back and I don't make contact with him,
Yes.
I will feel a loss.
Oh, it
Isn't
doesn't
that
sound
funny?
weird at all.
No,
It doesn't
I think
sound
that
weird at
sounds a
all,
little
though.
weird to me.
Yeah,
I-
yeah,
Yeah, because I feel like we
It's-
made a connection.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
I asked him to be my friend, and he accepted that friendship.
Right,
and now if he
right.
goes away,
Right.
I'll feel a loss.
Exactly.
Which
And that's
is-
compassion there. So
There
I've
is.
always said you can't be in this field
Yeah.
if you don't have a sense of compassion.
Mm-hmm.
I've always felt like that.
I agree with that.
You know, so you gotta be able to be compassionate, but you also need to stomach everything that comes in too, because
Right.
sometimes it's not all pretty.
Right.
And this is a perfect example where you had a friendship there, so it does make
Exactly.
you sad. Yes.
And in the same way
Yeah.
with Linda. I mean, there was no
Yes.
doubt last night that she made an emotional
Yes.
connection
Yes.
with the
Right.
spirit. I mean, we
Yeah.
proved it when you tried to ask and said, if you want me to go away, boom, it lights up.
Yeah.
You know, I did it, boom, it lights up and says, go
Exactly.
away.
Go
Exactly.
away.
Linda's just keeps communicating, and then when we bring the other female in,
Right.
she starts and she actually
Ex-
gets this communication.
I know. It was
But
funny.
too early in her, she said, do you want me to
Yes.
go away? And it lit up big because it wanted Linda back.
Right.
Right.
So it's
right.
interesting that
They
that's the
choose the
kind of level
individuals. Oh my
that you connected on.
Yes. Yes.
Because,
Right.
and I think you're right, Deb.
Right.
Because of the compassion you show. You just said, so I hope our audience heard that. You said, I asked him to be my friend.
Right.
I mean, that's
right.
a great technique.
It really is. It's
a
a
great technique for paranormal
For anyone who
investigating.
wants to begin, and if they're watching this, this show, any other show, they need to understand that it really is built on positivity and not on negativity.
There you go.
And
Right.
it really is. And you just made such a good thing. But when you said like it will make you sad, that just touched me because I mean we taped the show last week. I almost cried 5 times
Oh, no.
because
Yeah.
we do have emotional connection to the other side.
We do.
And
We
even
do.
if it's strangers, it doesn't matter. You
Well, the
know.
other thing about this is that as historic as this building is, and you know
Yes.
what, I would tell our viewers, if you don't like the paranormal or you don't believe in the paranormal,
Right.
go see this on June the 2nd anyways. I mean,
Yes.
if you have any like for history at all,
Yeah.
this is a walk through time
Yeah.
with some of the stuff. They also have firemen's hats in there. And
Oh, yes.
I mean, it is just a very emotional, moving time to go down there and walk through
Right,
the Historical
right.
Society and see the buildings and the tools.
It is.
You know, I think that this is such a thing that you're mentioning here because as humans who live in this year, okay, we often forget that there were other centuries before us. And if we do not promote that and show people that,
Right.
they're missing out on so much.
Sure.
And
I agree.
my daughter's 14, she's going to be 15, my son's going to be 13. And we do discuss a lot. I mentioned I have not visited that historical site. However, we've been to Boston and Philly and all the other New York historical sites, everywhere there. That brings all that emotion in. And being mediums, because they're mediums as well, it heightens it a little bit more. But we
Oh,
got
I
to
bet.
tell the public they got to learn about some history and know that today is not the only day. There are centuries ago that have been forgotten that are
Yeah.
not even being recognized anymore.
Right.
And that's a great, when you said even the firemen's hats, oh my gosh.
Right,
Just
Well, we
they
often
just haven't seen
we
it.
too often forget what our past was.
That's what I'm
because we're so
saying.
busy with our future,
That's what I
our
mean,
day-to-day
exactly.
routines
Yes, yes.
that we forget what people went through. And
That's right.
I'm a big buff for the Civil War time.
Yes.
Because people don't appreciate. First of all, that was the first war that this country ever fought in its own soil.
Right,
I mean,
right.
it's the very first war and the only war
And
it
the
ever
only
fought
war.
on its own soil. And it truly was brother against brother in some cases.
absolutely.
Families split. And one of the reasons, not paranormal, but one of the reasons they did that was that so many people were losing their lives.
Yep.
That if a family had 2 sons, they put them on each side of the battle,
I know.
hoping one of them would survive.
Right.
Right.
And see, this is where I think some members of society don't even know
Correct.
this information.
Yeah, we're not.
And-
When I was a kid, we took what they called history.
Yes.
You had a history book. You read
Right.
it. I have a grandson, and I say to him, "Now, how's your history class going?" What?
Right.
What class?
Right.
I don't have history.
I
What's
know,
history?
it's so
And I
different.
think,
It is so
you got to be
different.
kidding me.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
he really doesn't understand what the Civil War is. He doesn't
Right.
understand how this country got as great as it is.
That's
I mean,
right.
we complain. We complain.
right.
But it is
Right.
one of the greatest countries in the world, no matter
It is.
what your political views are. It's
It
still the
is.
greatest country, and they built this for us.
Right. And I will tell you this, especially with the gentleman you were dealing with, okay, at the train depot, is they also look at us because they can't believe the technology that we have
Right.
these days, how we don't even pick up a newspaper anymore,
Right.
how we're just living so carelessly, it seems.
Right.
And they look at us, and believe me when I tell you, they give me comments
Mm.
sometime where I'm pushed back and reminding myself, you know what? Wow, we are very spoiled. We're
Oh,
a very
we are.
spoiled
We are.
society.
We are.
And they do say it to us. And so that is something I've never admitted to anyone before, but they do say that. You know,
Yeah.
it's like, for once, don't
Right.
touch your phone. For once, don't do that. And I'm like, yeah, it's so true. And that gentleman, because they were wise beyond their time, they had to communicate differently.
Right.
They had to work
Right.
differently. Earning their money was different. Everything was different.
Yeah.
And, you know, we're so vastly different today.
And paranormal teams have to understand that. You know, that to
That's
me
why I
is a
said it.
basic lesson if you want to be a paranormal investigator.
Right.
Is that you're using language.
That's right.
You're using technology
Right.
that they have never seen before.
That's right.
This
That's
was
right.
Star Wars.
Right.
I mean, that wasn't even discussed.
Right.
Back then.
So this is a perfect example, and that's what I was trying to get at as well, is even the Sandown Meeting House, the places that we have
Right.
all investigated before. If you know you're walking into a place that was built in 1781, you got to understand their language is going to be based on 1781.
Right.
Everything. We go in there looking like they're going to be like, what is going on? Do you know what I'm saying?
correct.
And,
Right.
and that's where you have to put almost your mind and your everything else into that time frame. And say, hey, you know, I do realize, but it is 2016, which I tend to tell Spirit a lot on what year it is.
Right.
I actually flip a calendar in my mind and tell
Yeah.
them the day. And this way they're aware of it because, yeah, can you imagine us walking in, to a place that was 1890 and
Right.
all of a sudden here we are.
And,
Right.
you know, you have to remember, too, that paranormal teams have to, or should at least, do the research on the
Absolutely.
historical. Because it's so
Absolutely.
much easier if you go in and say, is your name
Right.
Aaron
right.
Littlefield?
Right.
You know?
Right.
I mean, then that
Right.
spirit, that energy knows that you've taken the time.
Yes.
And now you're communicating on their level with them. You know?
Right.
We,
Exactly.
Paranormal teams expect them to communicate with us.
Yes.
That's not what this is about. It's
Yes.
about us communicating with them.
Yes.
Right.
So let's...
Yeah, I'm thrilled that, he was here because I wasn't able to do it yesterday, but I liked it also that I wasn't there because I was able to still counteract with you
Yeah,
about the
right,
information
that
I
was
was
fun.
receiving,
Right.
even though I was never there. So that was actually really good,
Yeah,
that I heard that. But I think what I loved the most is seeing Fred's compassion. That did it for me for this episode today.
Well, you know what?
I mean?
I know
That
a
was-
lot of the
that was
people at
big.
North East Paranormal Associates, and
Yeah.
they're a fairly unique team
Yes,
to that
they are.
degree. That,
Yes.
that they are a very compassionate group.
Right.
I think it should be noted here. They make no money for this.
Absolutely.
They get paid to do nothing. This is
Yep.
all a labor of love.
Right, right.
For this, so. It's they're out late at night and they're doing this because they're really trying to show other teams how to do it
Yes,
the right
yes,
way.
Right.
yes.
You know,
The
and-
right way.
and,
yes.
and to me, if you're gonna do something like this, like you as a medium,
Yep.
you're a successful medium because
Yes.
you know how to do it.
Yes.
A
that's
lot
true.
of mediums don't know how to do it,
Yep.
but you do, and that's
Yep.
what makes you so much in demand.
Right,
Right?
right. Yes, thank you.
So
Right,
listen,
well, like the
yeah, go
four
ahead.
other members of our team, last night while we were doing this investigation, we got a call from a lady in Berlin,
Yes.
New Hampshire,
Yeah.
who was having problems, and she was frightened. And that's where they are tonight. They're actually preparing to go up to Berlin on Sunday to help her
It's a
out.
3-hour drive.
It's a 3-hour drive.
Right.
And they're actually doing research today
Right.
on the building. They already know the building. They know the
Right.
history of the building. And they're going to go up to help her. So that's the
Yes,
kind of team
yeah.
we have. And I think that's pretty compassionate of them.
Yes,
is.
absolutely.
Well,
Well, Fred,
Yeah.
thank you for coming in again.
I
We
know,
appreciate
thank
it.
you.
On
was fun
behalf
to
of
be here.
Northeast Paranormal Associates, my co-host Debbie
Yes.
Raymond, and myself, Bob McDermott. We hope you enjoyed tonight's segment, especially if you're from Raymond, you're seeing a lot of local stuff.
Yes.
So we'll have a new show for you next week, so stay tuned and good night and be safe.